Have you ever stopped to think about how the invisible can influence the visible? Imagine a stage where the forces of good and evil intertwine, and you, without realizing it, might be at the center of this conflict. The devil often acts in subtle and cunning ways, infiltrating the small things of everyday life. He is not just a character from ancient stories, he is a reality that many face, even without knowing it. What if you could identify these signs? What if, throughout your life, you are being guided by thoughts and feelings that are not your own? The truth is that the spiritual battle goes far beyond what the eyes can see. From the discouragement that seems to arise from nowhere to the small temptations that seem harmless, every detail counts. Are you aware of the traps that might be around you? And those internal voices that say you are not capable? It could be that behind this, there is a well-elaborated strategy. Get ready to explore how these forces may be shaping your life in ways you never imagined. The journey begins now, and the revelation can transform everything. Influence of fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety have a peculiar way of infiltrating people's lives, don't they? Sometimes it all starts with a small doubt, an uneasiness that seems harmless, but can grow over time and transform into a monster that consumes faith and confidence. It is interesting to note how, in many cases, these emotions can be used as tools by forces that seek to divert individuals from their purpose. The devil, for instance, takes advantage of these weaknesses to sow uncertainties and insecurities, making people question their beliefs and values. The influence of fear can be subtle. A person who has always had faith suddenly starts to wonder if they are really on the right path. These questions can arise from a difficult situation, a failure, or even comparisons with the lives of others. What was once certainty transforms into doubt, and this doubt, if fed, can become a vicious cycle that distances the individual from what truly matters. And, of course, the further one drifts, the harder it becomes to return. Anxiety, on the other hand, has the capacity to paralyze. When worries begin to take over the mind, actions become limited. The devil, perceiving this vulnerability, can push people further into a state of inaction, making them believe they are not worthy of pursuing their goals or approaching their faith. Thus, the person finds themselves a hostage to a labyrinth of fears, where the exit seems distant and almost impossible to reach. Moreover, social comparison, so common today, can intensify this picture. Observing others' achievements can plunge someone into a sea of insecurities and discontent. The devil, like a conductor of this orchestra of doubts, uses these comparisons to create an even greater chasm between the individual and their faith. What could be a moment of reflection and growth turns into an identity crisis. Finally, it is important to remember that while fear and anxiety can be used as traps, they are also natural human feelings. Recognizing and facing them is a fundamental step to regain control of one's life and strengthen faith. Instead of being carried away by panic, one can seek support in their community, spirituality, and inner strength. Temptation and sin. Temptations are everywhere, aren't they? They present themselves subtly, often disguised as opportunities or momentary pleasures. The devil, with his cunning, knows exactly how to play with human weakness. He takes advantage of each one's vulnerabilities, testing the limits of what a person considers right and wrong. And, in the blink of an eye, what seemed like an innocuous choice can turn into a dangerous deviation from the path that was laid out. When we talk about sin, it is often necessary to reflect on how it insinuates itself into the small decisions of daily life. It is not always a grand act of rebellion, but rather a series of small concessions that accumulate over time. The devil, with his skill in sowing doubts, can make a person minimize the severity of their actions. Oh, this isn't so serious, someone might think as they drift away from their core values. Everyday life is full of choices that may seem trivial, but, when analyzed in the light of faith, can carry significant weight. Temptation can arise in the form of a commitment that goes against personal beliefs or the relentless pursuit of pleasures that do not bring lasting satisfaction. The devil then takes advantage of these situations, leading the individual to believe that momentary satisfaction is worth more than the integrity of their soul. It is curious to observe how, in many cases, temptations are linked to legitimate desires, but, when taken to extremes, can result in sins. The desire to be loved, for example, can lead someone to compromise their principles in search of approval. Here again, the devil acts as a manipulator, turning a natural feeling into a point of weakness. In the end, recognizing temptations as part of the human experience is essential. The goal is not to be perfect, but to learn to deal with these daily struggles. By staying vigilant and aware, one can develop resilience that helps resist the traps the devil sets along the way, always striving to return to a greater purpose. Division and relational conflicts. Relationships are a fundamental part of life, but at the same time, they are fertile ground for conflicts. The devil, recognizing this fragility, does not hesitate to sow discord among friends, family, and communities. It is interesting to note how often simple issues can turn into major misunderstandings, and this does not happen by chance. Negative forces are always lurking, ready to exploit any breach they can find. A clear example of this is how small disagreements, if not addressed, can turn into significant feuds. The devil, with his ability to create misunderstandings, can make people see each other as enemies when, in fact, it is all a matter of perspective. Lack of communication, rumors, and assumptions become the weapons that fuel this cycle of division. Moreover, comparison between relationships can also be a triggering factor for conflicts. In a world where social media showcases edited versions of other people's lives, it is easy to fall into the trap of thinking one's life is inferior. The devil then takes advantage of this insecurity, generating resentments and rivalries that can corrode even the strongest bonds. The impact of these conflicts can be devastating. Families can split, friendships can break, and communities can be destroyed. Every disagreement fueled by the devil is a lost opportunity for love and understanding. The peace that could reign is replaced by a climate of hostility and distrust, where love is eclipsed by a vicious cycle of accusations and resentments. However, it is possible to break the cycle. Recognizing that these divisions are fueled by external forces can be the first step toward reconciliation. Promoting dialogue, empathy, and understanding is essential to restoring relationships. Thus, instead of being carried away by discord, people can find ways to unite in pursuit of a greater purpose, overcoming the traps the devil tries to set along the way. Spiritual discouragement. It is curious how, in the midst of a journey of faith, discouragement can stealthily infiltrate a person's life. Often, daily difficulties and challenges can seem so burdensome that spiritual practice becomes a burden. The devil, with his subtle tricks, can use these moments of weakness to make a person doubt their faith. The idea that prayer is ineffective or that devotion is in vain can start to echo in the mind, leading to a state of spiritual apathy. And so, what began as a small doubt can quickly turn into a distancing from the religious community. The feeling of isolation is one of the most devastating consequences of this discouragement. When people distance themselves from spiritual practice, they often also distance themselves from their support groups, friends, and family who share the same faith. The devil takes advantage of this distancing to deepen the feeling of loneliness. Lack of interaction with other believers can lead to the belief that faith is something one must carry alone, making it an even heavier burden. Thus, the cycle of discouragement feeds itself, and the person can feel increasingly distant from God and the community. Furthermore, everyday distractions often mix with this discouragement. Modern life demands so much from us that sometimes it is easy to set aside spiritual practices. The devil, astute as he is, uses these distractions as a strategy to keep people away from their true essence. The intense routine, obligations, and even entertainment can seem more attractive than time dedicated to meditation, prayer, and reflection. And so, what should be a sacred moment becomes a mere distant memory. The struggle against spiritual discouragement is a constant battle. It is necessary to be attentive to the subtleties of daily life that can undermine faith. It is important to cultivate an environment where the practice of faith can flourish. Participating in community activities, seeking support from friends and family, and remembering the promises of hope that faith brings are ways to combat this discouragement. It is not an easy task, but resilience can be a powerful weapon against the devil's attacks. Finally, spiritual discouragement is not just an individual issue, it can affect entire communities. When one person feels discouraged, the collective energy of a group can be impacted. Unity and mutual support are essential to keep the flame of faith alive. Therefore, it is crucial that each member of the community be attentive to signs of discouragement, offering help and encouragement to one another, creating an environment where everyone feels welcomed and supported in their spiritual journeys. False ideologies and beliefs. Talking about false ideologies and beliefs means delving into a territory full of subtleties and manipulations. The devil, with his cunning, knows exactly how to distort truths and present ideas that may seem appealing at first glance. People often seek answers to their doubts and longings, and these ideologies can emerge as seductive alternatives. Misinformation and a lack of spiritual discernment can lead many to stray from fundamental principles of faith, exchanging them for empty promises. These false beliefs can arise from various sources. Whether in the media, informal conversations, or even in so-called support groups, the spread of ideas that contradict spiritual truth is a reality. The devil uses language that resonates with human longings, making people feel understood, but in reality, they're being guided away from their convictions. It's impressive how an idea that seems harmless can, over time, erode the foundation of someone's faith. The fragility of the human mind is an open door for these deceptions. When people are not firmly rooted in their beliefs and do not seek spiritual consistency, they are more susceptible to accepting any idea that feels comfortable. The devil then takes advantage of this space and begins to implant doubts about the truth, creating confusion and uncertainty. Criticism of faith, denial of fundamental values, and the adoption of ideologies that promote division are some of the most common consequences of this manipulation. Therefore, it is essential for each individual to seek a deeper understanding of their faith. Reading, studying, and reflecting are necessary practices to discern what is true from what is deceptive. Religious communities play a crucial role in this process, as they provide a safe space to discuss doubts and share experiences. In these interactions, one can find support that helps strengthen faith and combat the false ideologies that threaten spirituality. Finally, combating these false beliefs is not only an individual responsibility, but a collective one. By uniting around spiritual truth, communities can create an environment of learning and growth where everyone feels encouraged to explore their beliefs more deeply. Thus, by remaining vigilant and united in faith, it is possible to resist what the devil tries to sow and strengthen the truth that brings hope and purpose. Manipulation of reality. The manipulation of reality is a clever tactic the devil uses to distort people's perceptions of their lives. He can make a difficult situation seem unbearable, leading to a sense of despair that prevents any positive action. Instead of seeing a challenge as an opportunity for growth, many end up feeling trapped in a cycle of negativity, which can affect not only mental health, but also spirituality. This distortion is often fueled by automatic negative thoughts that arise in moments of weakness. Additionally, this manipulation can manifest in social comparisons, where people see themselves in constant competition with others, often leading to low self-esteem. The devil uses these comparisons to create an environment of dissatisfaction, making people feel they are never good enough or that their lives are always at a disadvantage compared to others. This distorted perspective can result in a withdrawal from faith, as hope becomes a nebulous concept overshadowed by a sense of inadequacy. When someone feels trapped in a manipulated reality, it can be hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Small victories become invisible, and gratitude, which could serve as an anchor in difficult times, is often overlooked. The devil then feeds on this lack of perspective, encouraging a pessimistic view that hinders personal and spiritual growth. It's as if there's a dense fog that obscures the fundamental truths of life, the possibility of change, the ability to overcome, and the certainty that there is always hope. The manipulation of reality can also manifest in a distorted view of God and His plan for one's life. Many people begin to believe that God does not care about their struggles or that He is distant, when in fact the opposite is true. This belief amounts to a great deception that leads to a distancing from faith and spiritual loneliness. The devil then uses this disconnection to reinforce the idea that life is a solitary struggle, which is one of the biggest illusions he propagates. Therefore, it is vital for people to develop a critical awareness of how they perceive their realities. Seeking support, both spiritual and emotional, can help dismantle the lies the devil tries to root. By cultivating a positive mindset and trusting in God, it is possible to start seeing life through a clearer and more hopeful lens. This transformation of perspective is essential to regain control over one's own journey and realize that, even in difficulties, there is always a path to light. Procrastination and distraction. Procrastination and distraction are powerful tools the devil uses to keep people away from their goals and purposes. Often, daily distractions seem harmless, but when added up, they can completely divert focus from meaningful goals. Technology, for example, offers an array of entertainment options that can consume hours of the day without us realizing it. Thus, time slips away while true dreams and purposes take a back seat. Moreover, procrastination can be an emotional trap. Many people procrastinate as a way of dealing with the fear of failure or criticism. The devil feeds on this fear, encouraging thoughts like, "Why try if you might fail?" This leads to a cycle of inaction that can become a life pattern. The idea that it's better not to try than to risk failure becomes a limiting belief, inhibiting personal and spiritual growth. Distractions can also manifest in relationships. Instead of deeply connecting with friends and family, many choose to get lost in electronic devices or superficial activities. This creates a void that can be exploited by the devil, who seeks to promote loneliness and disconnection. When people feel isolated, the temptation to drift away from faith and spiritual practices becomes stronger as community becomes less accessible. The devil can use procrastination as a strategy to undermine motivation. By postponing important tasks, people can feel overwhelmed and unable to move forward, leading to a sense of helplessness. This feeling can be paralyzing, making the person feel trapped in a cycle of negativity. What could have been a simple task to accomplish turns into an insurmountable mountain, and meaningful action becomes a rarity. Becoming aware of procrastination and distractions is the first step to overcoming them. Setting priorities, creating routines, and seeking an environment conducive to concentration can help break this vicious cycle. Additionally, cultivating an active spirituality, which includes moments of reflection and prayer, can provide the strength needed to face daily life with more determination. Thus, by keeping focused on goals and purposes, it is possible to defeat the devil's schemes and live a fuller and more meaningful life. Hey everyone! We've reached the end of this deep conversation about how the devil might be working in your life. But before we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect. Have you ever thought about which areas of your life might be under attack? Are those negative thoughts that haunt you coming from a larger place? Remember, the enemy is cunning, but God's light is even stronger. Now, how about an exercise? Take a moment in your day to observe your emotions and thoughts. What pulls you off the path? And more importantly, how can you strengthen your faith to resist these traps? Prayer, reading the Bible, and fellowship with other Christians are powerful weapons. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to share and comment below on how you have been facing these battles. Also, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss any updates. We're in this journey of faith together, and every step counts. Until next time, and may God bless your walk.